4 years of love, then silence. She erased me like I'd never existed, but I found a way to be seen again, not out of pride, but out of love. My name is Eleanor James. I'm 67 years old, a widow, living quietly in Charleston, South Carolina. For 4 years, every single weekend of my life belonged to my grandson, Liam. When my daughter Vanessa's marriage fell apart and she found herself suddenly on her own, overwhelmed by work and parenting, I stepped in. Not as a babysitter, not as a favor, but as a second mother. Every Friday, I would pick Liam up from school, eager to spend those precious hours with him. We baked cookies, chocolate chip was always his favorite, built forts out of blankets, and read stories until he drifted off on my lap. I taught him how to tie his shoes, how to ride his bike, and how to make scrambled eggs just the way he liked. When he was sick, it was me who stayed awake, rocking him through the night. I was his safe place, his Mimi. He used to look up at me with those wide, trusting eyes and say, "Mimi, you're my favorite person in the world." Those words filled me with a purpose I thought I'd lost. I believed, truly believed, that I had a permanent place in his life and in Vanessa's. But one day, without any warning, everything stopped. No more weekend pickups. No more bedtime stories. The phone calls dried up. The texts disappeared. And then, like a punch to the chest, I saw the Facebook invitation for Liam's 7th birthday party. It was bright and cheerful, tagged with dozens of family members and friends. But not my name, not a single invite. It wasn't just being forgotten, it was being erased. I didn't respond with anger. I didn't yell or storm into their lives demanding answers. Instead, I held on to what mattered most, my presence in Liam's heart. That's where I chose to fight, not with bitterness, but with love. If you're watching this and it hits a chord deep inside you, if you've ever been pushed aside by someone you love, or felt invisible in your own family, please know you're not alone. Subscribe to this channel, hit the like button if this story moves you, and share your own experience in the comments. Sometimes the quietest voices need to be heard the most, because this story isn't just mine, it's ours. For years, my weekends with Liam were a cherished ritual, a sacred space carved out from the chaos of life. Every Friday afternoon, I'd swing open the door to my small Charleston home and be greeted by his bright smile and outstretched arms. We'd spend hours baking cookies, chocolate chip, of course, his favorite treat. Sometimes we'd dive into science projects like making vinegar and baking soda volcanoes, watching in delight as the fizz erupted. Other times, we'd curl up in the living room, watching Saturday morning cartoons while he nestled close, whispering little secrets only a 7-year-old could have. I was there for every scraped knee, every bruise, every fevered night when Liam was too sick to sleep. I'd sit beside his bed, brushing his hair back, humming lullabies until his breathing evened out and his tiny body relaxed. These moments weren't just about caregiving, they were love in its purest form. A grandmother's love that crossed generations and filled gaps no one else could. But as the years passed, I noticed a shift. Vanessa, my daughter, was no longer the warm, grateful woman I once knew. Her responses became curt, her smiles rare. She'd roll her eyes when I offered advice, dismissing my efforts with a coldness that stung deeper than any harsh word. I told myself she was tired, overwhelmed by the pressures of work and single motherhood. Maybe she was just stressed. I swallowed the hurt, bit my tongue, hoping the distance was temporary. But then, one afternoon, everything changed. Liam was sitting quietly, absorbed in his tablet. I gently suggested, "Sweetheart, how about we take a break and play outside for a while?" He nodded, eyes bright with anticipation. Just as I was about to help him up, Vanessa walked in carrying groceries. She froze at my suggestion, her jaw tightening. "You don't need to watch him anymore," she said sharply, her voice cold as ice. "I'll make other arrangements." I stood there, stunned, the words hitting me like a blow. "What do you mean?" I asked, heart pounding. "I mean exactly what I said," she replied, grabbing her keys without looking back. "You're not needed anymore." Just like that, I was cut out of the life I had poured my heart into. The silence that followed was suffocating. Days stretched into an endless fog of confusion and hurt. I kept reaching for my phone, hoping Vanessa would call, text, say anything to explain or soften the blow. But there was nothing. No message, no apology, just silence. And then came the final cruel wound. I was scrolling through Facebook, a habit I'd picked up since my husband passed away. There it was, a bright, cheerful invitation to Liam's birthday party. The post was tagged with dozens of names: friends, family, neighbors, yoga classmates. Everyone, it seemed, but me. I stared at the screen, rereading the invitation over and over, willing my name to appear. But it never did. I was uninvited from the life I helped build. I called Vanessa, my voice shaking as I begged for a conversation. When she finally answered, her tone was cold and distant. "We just need boundaries," she said bluntly. Those words echoed in my mind for days. Boundaries. I wasn't a stranger. I was Liam's Mimi. Yet suddenly, I was unwelcome. I won't lie, there were moments when the pain threatened to consume me, but I refused to spiral into bitterness or despair. Instead, I sat with my feelings. I let myself feel the sorrow, the rejection, the loneliness. And then I made a choice. I would not disappear quietly, because love like mine doesn't fade into silence. It refuses to be erased. Eleanor knew she had to do something, not out of spite, not to make a scene, but because love like hers couldn't be silenced. The day before Liam's official birthday party, she quietly set her plan in motion. She would throw a party of her own, a celebration filled with warmth and presence, a reminder that love isn't measured by invitations or guest lists. She booked a small church hall just down the street, a familiar place where Liam had once performed in a Christmas play. The space was simple: linoleum floors, folding chairs, a modest stage, but Eleanor saw a canvas waiting to be filled with joy. She decorated with Liam's favorite theme: dinosaurs. Green streamers curled from the ceiling, plates and napkins printed with roaring T-Rexes lined the tables, and a homemade banner proclaimed Liam's big day. She baked cupcakes, painstakingly icing each one, and sent handwritten invitations to those who truly understood the bond she shared with Liam: family members, friends from church, and neighbors who had witnessed the years of love she poured into her grandson. On the morning of the party, Liam arrived at Eleanor's house expecting another ordinary Saturday. But instead of settling in for cartoons, Eleanor whisked him into the car, a mischievous smile tugging at her lips. As they pulled up to the church hall, Liam's eyes grew wide with wonder. "Is this all for me?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Every bit of it, baby," Eleanor replied, kneeling to meet his gaze. The room erupted in laughter, applause, and music as Liam ran from table to table, touching the decorations, hugging relatives, and dancing with abandon. For the first time in what felt like forever, Eleanor saw the light return to his eyes, the kind of pure, unfiltered joy only a child knows. "This is the best birthday ever, Mimi," he whispered, clutching her hand as they watched the other children play games and chase bubbles. Photos from the party began to appear online, snapshots of smiling faces, frosting-smeared cupcakes, and Liam's delighted grin. Comments flooded in, quiet acknowledgments of the love that had never disappeared, even if it had been hidden. The next day, Vanessa hosted her polished, catered party, filled with perfectly arranged decorations and a guest list curated with precision. Eleanor wasn't there, but Liam kept telling anyone who would listen, "I already had my real birthday, with Mimi." When Vanessa finally found out about Eleanor's party, she stormed to Eleanor's door, her face flushed with anger. "You embarrassed me," she spat, arms crossed like a shield. But Eleanor didn't flinch. She met her daughter's glare calmly and spoke her truth without hesitation. "You didn't just cut me off," she said steadily. "You punished me for loving him too well." The air between them thickened with years of unspoken pain and resentment. Vanessa's defenses cracked, and for the first time her voice softened. "I was jealous," she admitted, eyes brimming with tears. "You were always there, and I wasn't." That moment was raw and painful, but it shattered the walls built from anger and silence. It opened a space for vulnerability and healing. Not everything was fixed that day. The wounds would take time to heal, and trust would need to be rebuilt brick by brick. But something fundamental had shifted, something neither of them could ignore anymore. Eleanor had shown up, not for recognition, but because love demanded presence. And in doing so, she reminded everyone that no matter how deeply you are pushed away, the truth of your love will always find a way to shine through. That quiet act of devotion, the simple, unwavering presence, carried a power far greater than any words or grand gestures could. It spoke volumes about resilience, about choosing love over resentment, and about refusing to be erased from the story you helped write. Eleanor wasn't seeking applause or validation. She was claiming her place in Liam's life and ultimately reclaiming her own sense of worth. In those moments after the party, as the echoes of laughter lingered and the decorations were carefully packed away, Eleanor felt something shift deep inside her. It was a quiet strength, a calm certainty that she had done right by her heart and by her grandson. That strength wasn't born from defiance, it was born from love that refuses to be diminished. And love, she realized, isn't a competition or a trophy to be won. It's a steady light, a presence that nurtures and holds, even when no one else seems to notice. For Eleanor, this meant showing up, not just in grand celebrations, but in everyday moments. The bedtime stories, the scraped knees, the whispered reassurances when the world felt overwhelming for a little boy. This story is for anyone who has ever felt sidelined, dismissed, or unseen by those they love most. It's a reminder that your role, your love, and your presence matter, even when others fail to recognize it. Sometimes the most profound impact happens quietly, away from the spotlight. For Eleanor, the journey wasn't about erasing pain or rewriting the past. It was about standing firm in the present, showing up authentically, and trusting that love itself carries the power to heal and restore. And in doing so, she found not only a renewed bond with Liam, but also a deeper connection with herself. Because at the end of the day, love is the most courageous choice we can make. It asks us to be vulnerable, to forgive, and to persist. And when we choose love, we choose to keep the door open for reconciliation, for healing, and for the possibility of a new beginning. Eleanor's story reminds us all, no matter how hard life tries to push us aside, our love has the power to shine through, lighting the way back home. The days after the birthday party felt strange, quiet, almost fragile. The sharp edges of conflict had softened, but the wounds still throbbed beneath the surface. I wasn't sure what to expect from Vanessa, or how this new chapter of our relationship would unfold. Would the distance return? Would the silence creep back in? But then, a few days later, my phone rang. It was Vanessa. "Mom," she said hesitantly, her voice softer than I remembered in a long time. "Can I come by? I'd like to talk." I didn't hesitate. Yes, I wanted that more than anything. When she arrived that afternoon, it was just her, no Liam, no distractions, no carefully rehearsed smiles. She walked up my porch steps slowly, as if unsure whether I'd still be there waiting. But I was. We sat at my kitchen table, the same place where just days before words had cut like knives. Now, there was only quiet understanding between us. "Liam misses you," Vanessa said, her eyes flickering with a mixture of guilt and relief. "I miss you too." And then Liam appeared, his small frame darting to the door, eyes lighting up when he saw me. He threw himself into my arms, wrapping his little arms tightly around me. "Mimi, you're still my favorite person," he said, like nothing had ever changed. That Saturday, I didn't feel like a guest in my own family. I felt like I was home again. The road ahead won't be perfect. We both know that. There will still be disagreements and hard days. But the difference now is that our boundaries come with understanding, not erasure. With respect, not resentment. With love, not silence. This story isn't about fireworks or dramatic endings. It's about repair, about the slow, steady work of rebuilding what's broken with patience and grace. It's about knowing when to stand firm and when to open your heart again. I'm sharing this not because I want sympathy, but because I want solidarity. I know there are so many of you out there who have felt dismissed, undervalued, or erased by your own family. You've given your love and your time only to be met with cold shoulders or silence. I want you to know this. Your love matters. Your presence is powerful, and you don't need permission to take up space in the lives you've helped build. If this story stayed with you, please consider liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and sharing it with someone who might need to hear these words today. And if you've ever had to reclaim your place in your own family, I invite you to share your story in the comments below. I'm listening, and so is this community. Because sometimes the most profound healing begins when we find the courage to show up again and again with love as our guide. Thank you for listening.